Hello and welcome to everyone that's here. This is the first Light Language Masterclass, shall we call it? My name is Tahna. I'm your host and resident Light Language mentor. I'm also a mentee of Light Language. I feel like it's a give and take relationship. Ooh, there's more people joining. I love seeing where all of you are from in the comments. Oh, the Athenry Holiday Park. Every time I have a break from work, I go to the Athenry Holiday Park and have a swim in the hot pools there. It's so beautiful. Okay, but before I get distracted, let's do this. Renee's from Nelson. That's so cool. I can already feel that like throat activation happening. Now, this is a free gift from my heart and my high counsel to you. There is absolutely no obligation or expectation that you need to purchase anything from me, but I am doing these free classes because I am about to start in 3.5 weeks, a light language course called Soul Song. But I'll talk about that at the end so that you can choose whether you want to stay on for that or not. Yeah, it's my absolute honor to have experienced wanting to learn about light language, and I feel like that fizzy excitement of knowing where you guys all are, depending on where you are in your journey. And the beginning of this masterclass is going to be a transmission via a story of my journey to light language. So I'm just going to check my notes and then we will proceed. Before we continue any further, let's close our eyes and just ground into circle together. Just feeling the body. Breathing a little bit deeper if you feel called to. Feeling yourself coming, all of you, into this present moment. Grounding deep, deep, deep into the core of Mama Gaia. You can even visualize a seedling in your heart and those roots expanding down throughout the body. Connecting into and anchoring you to your soul crystal, which lives deep in the core of Mama Gaia. Anchoring you. And just feeling your body relax. Any tension release as you feel Mama Gaia receiving you. Deepening into this present moment. And also feeling the body coming back into the heart. Feeling any shifts between before and after connecting into Mama Gaia. And yes, if your brain is still noisy, it can be this quick. The ability to connect, to tune, to be at presence and peace. Feeling and breathing into the heart, the seat of your soul. And from this place, I want you to feel and visualize these beautiful branches growing up from your heart through the upper body, out the crown chakra and up into the ethers, going beyond and beyond and beyond. Connecting you into your oversoul network, your higher self aspects. Just feeling yourself expand here. Feeling the connection points to all other selves and alternate realities and other lifetimes. Excellent. And from here, we're going to allow those branches to continue up, 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 up. beyond and beyond and beyond, until you feel the sense of peace as you reach source consciousness, Sophia Gaia, Christ consciousness, tuning into and feeling those branches connecting and anchoring you into that which you are, which you be, and which you come from. And then just taking a nice big deep breath here. Feeling your column of ascension from the core of Mama Gaia, this beautiful light of you all the way up through to your own heart and into the ethers and beyond into source consciousness, feeling the complete anchoring of you into this present moment, into your own sovereign channel. I'd like for you to take a deep breath with me now with the three hearts as one, your own precious heart, the heart of Mother Gaia, and the heart of source consciousness. Taking a deep belly breath, feeling your belly expand, and then exhaling all the way out, breathing out until you can't possibly release any more air. And then a nice big deep breath in now. Feeling the body expand, and the nice exhale. Excellent. And before we open our eyes, I just want you to feel and visualize yourself sitting around a fire. You might see some of the other people in the circle sitting beside you. There are actually 19 of us, those who will receive on the replay. And I call upon the four directions and the four elements. Lady Diana, Astarte, Hecate, Shakrato Otritiaste, Mother Mary and Ascended Master Isis, and then welcoming Yeshua and Archangel Metatron as our anchors and our divine masculine guides for this journey today. May we open our hearts, our minds, and our whole beingness to receive the loving transmissions that are shared, welcoming your own guides into this space, whether that be a higher aspect part of you or any goddesses or gods that you are journeying with, any archangels. Oh, dragons, unicorns, any beautiful creatures are welcome here. And the knowing that I be the sovereign leader of this experience, and that only those with the highest divine light are welcome here. There are 4 giants at the corners around us in this quantum space to create a sense of protection and grounding, and allowing the frequency to remain high and only of the light. And last but not least, welcoming the elders, the ancestors, and the elementals of the land with which you are upon right now. Giving great thanks to all of those who have come before and those who shall come after. May we pave the way, acknowledging the light, and also deeply honoring the depth, the dark, and the blackness. The full spectrum of this human experience. Taking a look at this beautiful blazing fire before you, we give thanks as she burns away that which might be holding you back. any blockages. Giving thanks to my High Council for helping me and allowing me to receive these incredible transmissions to be able to uplift and expand the frequency of humanity. Mokarati atarati ashtahanya krati ete hanya krata otroto onuho koroto etiata akahanyete. Moirehata yakato moya. The circle is open. You are welcome to open your eyes when you feel ready. Breathing deeply and having some water if you have some with you. So, this is so fun. This story is a coded transmission. And what that means is that as I share with you my story of how I became initiated in light language and opened up my own gates of glossolalia, I love that word. Glossolalia is the bank of languages that are beyond just our human vocabularies. I will speak, and my guides, in conjunction with your guides, will open up the facets of your atomic, subatomic structure that need to be adjusted so that you can continue to bloom open to receive this experience. And it doesn't matter if you have already begun to speak or move or find light language codes flowing through to you, or whether you've never experienced it ever for yourself personally, but you just like need to know more. This journey of light language is unique to all of us. For some people, we can hear someone else speak light language and it can just fall out of us because it's right there knocking at the door. And for others, we've been through lifetimes where we've had to cut off and shut down and suppress our true expression so many times. And as I say this, I feel so many goosebumps that there is fear. There is fear of the inner child, there's fear of the witch wound, there's fear of the ability to express in the completeness of your sovereign freedom. So what I want from you is just to keep breathing. If you feel while I'm speaking to move your body, please do, because when we hear a coded transmission, it almost like moves and shifts things within us. And it can often, your body might feel like circling or moving, or you might want to get up and go outside. Or for some of you, you might feel quite tired and like maybe you need to lie down, and it's okay. Energy affects all of us really differently. So what I want you to do is have this permission slip to receive this in whatever way feels good for you, without judging your human and your body's needs, and also to just open your mind a little bit wider to remember that you might have heard some of the things I'm going to say before, or some of it might sound actually crazy, and that there is more in this world than we can even begin to possibly understand, even when we think we're like a cosmic magical being. So I am the channel, but you are the conduit. Your own unique frequency and coding is what enlivens your galactic soul song and personal transcripts, which is basically light language. So my role is to facilitate a space where your body can feel so deeply relaxed, received, held, and understood, that your cells and your DNA can open up, that we can restructure any formats that have been put in to protect you, because we're in a time in reality and humanity where we are actually so safe to be the most unhinged, feral, feminine aspects of ourselves. And that means that we are in a time where we can be free. And yes, I acknowledge that there are parts of humanity that aren't at this point yet, but I feel in New Zealand especially, we have been gifted with the ability to really tune into ourselves and to allow the aspects of all of our multidimensionality to flow through. before I begin telling the story, just so I can know a little bit more about everyone's journey, can you tell me whether you're brand new to light language, if you've had an experience, like, or yeah, just type in the comments sort of where on the journey you're at so that I can sort of weave this into a knowing for everyone who's here. And I love how I've been doing this for years and my throat's still getting a nice old activation. Or I could just be smoking myself out with the incense, who knows? I feel like that was probably a hard question to answer in a quick chat, but I love to personalize this because even though everyone who comes on the replay will receive exactly what they need, the more I understand about you, the more I can not only allow your guides to attune to what needs to be done, but it also allows the frequency that comes through me to adjust. I haven't heard, man, excuse me. I haven't heard a lot of light language, but I have heard a lot but haven't spoken it myself. Excited to start the journey. I've started having activation of light language this year. Yay. It's my first time. I hear it, but I haven't spoken it myself. Amazing. So, this gets me fizzing because I remember when I was in this place, and that was only 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. I'm probably going to be clearing my throat a lot. I'm not actually sick. It's just all energy moving. I've had numerous experiences with light language. Mainly for me at the moment, it's more symbols and hand movements rather than a lot of voice. Heard lots of other people. I've been using light language for over 4 years. Amazing. I started with writing light language and have now moved into speaking it. I have one very predominant energy coming through, but very open to receive and connect with others. Okay, amazing. So, where do we start? Okay, number one, for those of you who are new to me and my sphere, when my body processes energy, sometimes I burp or I yawn. It's just an easy, quick way for my body to expel something. And because there's a lot of you in my field right now, there's a lot of stuff working. So let me just tune in. I want to share my story, but before I begin, what's really important to know, if I wrote this down, and it's probably really beautiful, the journey of blooming into your unique light language is very different for everyone. And there's actually 5 pillars to light language. I usually say 4, but there's actually 5. Depending on your soul's experience on planet Earth and in different star systems and in different galaxies, you will receive light language in different ways. So for some people, they can see sacred geometry, like either in nature or actually just like in the air. And sometimes you can see it and it will float into a part of your body. I've never had that experience, but it sounds amazing and I'm open to it. For some people, so there's the sacred geometry aspect. For some people, it is their hands. So you'll see for me, I use 4 aspects of the light language. So for me, it is hand mudras, which have certain meanings, and then just moving energy and frequency with the hands. So we have hands, we have physical movement of the actual whole body, which is embodied light language. And this became activated for me when I did a course with my beautiful friend Samantha May about 2.5 years ago. And yes, so it can be your hands doing certain movements and symbols, and then you can also move into a place where you feel like you're dancing, but it also feels deeper. You feel really grounded, and you can feel different frequencies moving. So short of me getting up and actually dancing for you, I'm sure that's a good explanation. Like, you'll just feel the physical movement. And I feel that for a lot of us, when we connect with our body, we can actually connect into different frequencies, and therefore light language is usually activated when we come into dance, or when we come into sacred lovemaking, or self-touch. This is really interesting because this is all channeled. Sometimes my human brain comes in and she's like, hey, I'm learning stuff, and I'm like, shh, keep channeling, shh. Okay, and then we move into the third aspect is spoken light language. And with spoken light language, you can have your own soul song, which is your soul's unique frequency. Or you can have different aspects of language from the earth, or from dragons, or from different galactic beings. So for instance, my own unique frequency is usually something like Shukroto otoroto oniakrata atarata hashinokroto otorote adna hakyakrati etoro hoye kyata. And Droman light language is deeply grounding. Shoya kya nahatoroto yanikreti astahako kya nahatia toto onieshkete hoyara nahatiate kikianisto koro hue. Oh, they have a lot to say. We'll come to that. I really want to show you dragon, but they're not ready to come through yet. So language of the land is something that I really love, because when you travel, you'll start to notice that different frequencies come through. Like when I went to Australia in 2022, when I was first being initiated, every time I would drive for more than 20 minutes, I'd just be like, and all these different sounds. That you will hear different dialects throughout this transmission. So I'm going to refocus the brain. So spoken light language is something that for a lot of people, they really, really want to do it, but they find it quite challenging because we judge ourselves, or we're like, oh my God, I sound like a crazy person. So the number one tip that I have for activating light language beyond the attunements and things that I can do is to start being really dumb and silly and hilarious with yourself, and to break down those barriers to just feeling like a really cringe person. Because the more you can be silly and ridiculous and have fun, the more easily you can be sitting in the car one day driving, and then all of a sudden be like, and like sometimes it's so fast and so high pitched I can hardly breathe, and it's just like so get really dumb. Okay, hands, body, codes, speaking. And speaking can also be singing. So for me, if I'm doing a healing for someone and I have a medicine song come through from their ancestors, or from a specific frequency on the land, it can be excuse me, something like Shoi kiatra na haya keto hunia he yo yokroto onoria hati hane he yo. There are so many, such a vast array of different frequencies. And light language is basically giving voice, whether it be actual voice or movement or drawing, to that which most humans cannot see. I feel like that's really important for me to remember. I love it when things come out of my mouth. I'm like, ooh. One thing about me is that I'm not cool. I'm not too cool to be like, oh yeah, I know all the things. Like I'm still totally learning. One of the absolute indicators that this is something that I'm really good at is when people started coming to my circles, and I will get to the fifth pillar. People started coming to just my regular moon circles, and then they'd message me on their drive home and say, Tahna, I couldn't stop singing light language. All of these sounds started coming out of me. Or I got home and I started journaling and I just started making all of these shapes and these symbols. And I was like, oh, okay. Like light language, once I understood, became so easy and effortless for me. It's almost like, oh, really? Life gets to be this simple. But we will come to that. The fifth, and one of my favorite ways to express light language, is through the act of drawing codes or writing in light language. And I actually don't know if I have that much to show you. And similar to speaking light language, when you sit down to draw or write codes, you might just have like the same symbol and you might draw it 500 times. And your brain will come in and be like, well, this is stupid. Why are you doing it again and again and again? You're not Bart Simpson. But actually, a lot of the time when light language comes through, the very first person you should utilize it for is yourself. It is a huge frequency shift. It actually completely recodes your whole human from, I'm just a regular human and maybe I can play with Reiki or different modalities. Light language is not a modality that someone else downloaded and taught you. It is your own inner frequency birthed into life through your different unique expression. So it will always start by clearing your own energy and your own frequency. And so sometimes you will sing the same 3 phrases over and over and over and over, or you'll speak them and it's very repetitive. It's repetitive to the human, but it's creating a subatomic reconfiguration. Okay. Next Friday, I'm going to go into more of the actual writing codes and how we can sit and find presence, play, and a simply fun meditation practice of sitting with crayons and things. But I need to stay focused because we've been on this for already over 30 minutes. So my story of light language. Okay. I was 29 in 2020 and I had been on my spiritual journey. Hey, Tons, we're twins. I had been on my spiritual journey for 10 years at this point, and I was like, I'm pretty advanced, like I'm so spiritual and stuff. And I had studied an array of different modalities, and one day a friend showed me this, oh my goodness, what's her name? The Architects of Destiny woman. I can't remember her name, but look up the Architects of Destiny on YouTube. She's a polyglot. She can speak like 25 different light languages. And it was like nighttime and I was getting ready to go to bed and my friend just played this video and this woman just shared like clips of 15 different light languages, one after the other after the other. And I just remember sitting there like, I was like, this is not something you should do before you go to bed. And my friend was totally fine, like didn't have any kind of physical reaction at all. And I just remember being like buzzing. I was like, I can't possibly go to bed now. I'm just like gonna stay up and Google what light language is and be like, what is this? And I might have heard other people speak it or sing it or been exposed to it before, but it was this one moment of me just being like, whoa, something in all those different frequencies being shared so quick fire just like did something to me. And then I remember it was sort of like a hot and cold thing. It would come and I'd be like, I need to know more about light language, and then it would go and it would come and it would go. And a couple of months later, I remember I used to sell crystals, and I have been a crystal channel for many years. And I had noticed that I would start speaking to someone about a crystal or a certain thing that they might need, and my hands would start doing this thing. And it just started like this. It was a bit lower on my chest, but I'm not going to show you my boobs. My hand, it was like someone else had taken my hand and started moving it. Like I could physically stop it. Like when you're hypnotized, it feels like something. Yes, thank you, Rhea Loveguard. Yes, it feels amazing. When you're hypnotized, you are given very strong suggestions and you can see yourself doing something, but you can't always control it. So light language is not some entity coming into your body and taking over you. It is simply a frequency influencing your bodily functions. I'm on a farm and hopefully the sounds are not too loud. Sorry. And I just remember it didn't freak me out, but I was like, oh, okay, so I'm having these hand movements. And I remember from that point just being like, oh, I'm really curious about this. But when I went onto the internet to try and learn more about light language, I found not a lot. I couldn't, I don't, and I think when I think back into it, I'm like, obviously my guides were just like directing me to be really specific and discerning with who I received information from. My brain's having a moment because the hand gesture thing happened before I heard Rhea's light language. I just got that backwards and now I'm panicking that I'm telling a story. So the hand thing happened and I didn't do any online research. It was like every time I tried to look stuff up, I was blocked. I wanted to know so desperately, like it was such a deep need, but nothing came until a few months later, my friend showed me this video of Rhea. And then similarly, every time I went online to look up Rhea's stuff, I found her frequency really intense and it was almost too much. And so I was like, I didn't watch a lot of videos. So it's almost like I had this deep need to receive light language and I wanted to activate it, but it was a slow process. My human and my body's mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual needed time to go from, oh my gosh, that's crazy gobbledygook sound, to this is something that's really real and really affected me in a really deep way, and I want to know more. And I haven't figured this out yet, but I always have spoken with my hands. I've always been a very flourishy kind of person. And so throughout the next year, I just started noticing that I would at times go like this. And a lot of the time it was when I was connecting to nature. I really love to just go to the ocean and stand with my ankles in the water or my knees in the water, depending on how cold it is, and just talk to the sea. And after a little while, I noticed that I would start going like this, and I was like, oh, okay. I think this is light language, but I didn't think too hard about it. I think that because I'm like an air sign and I'm a very in my head kind of person, if I had thought about it too hard, I would have just been like, I would have ruined the experience for myself. And I think a huge part of the reason why I'm telling this very long, laborious story is that it will take time and it will unfold as it's meant to for everyone very differently. I need to drink some tea and try and get this frog out of my throat. In November 2021, I had a reading with an amazing woman and she said, light language is coming for you. And I went, oh my God, finally, it's coming. I had started, this is Sandrine, so she's one of my mentors. I'd started receiving from her, and she spoke a lot of light language. So I think when you listen to someone speaking light language a lot, it unlocks things automatically. But I still was at this like holding pattern of, I want to learn more about this, but the internet was kind of like out of bounds. It's so interesting actually to reflect back on and be like, yeah, it wasn't about me seeing how other people did this. It was about me gently finding pathways to unlock my own experience. Something happened in 2021 after that reading. And I think that because of the multidimensionality of that particular mentor, I started unlocking connection with Mother Mary and deepening into understanding that I actually am multidimensional and that I have lived other lives and that I'm not just like this little Tahna who's lived one life and this is just it, you know? And from there, it sort of just kind of happened super organically. I started practicing dancing around by myself and being very silly in my whole physical body. And at the same time that all of this magical stuff was happening, I was going through a really intense emotional healing from an abusive relationship. So my nervous system was really overwhelmed. And I feel like that's probably why the light language came in really slowly and really gently. And it just kind of simmered away underneath. And I didn't have a lot of mental or intellectual study or understanding of what was going on. It was just like coming through. And the reason I talk about dancing is because when you are in trauma, you can feel really uncomfortable in your body. And a really beautiful way to open the pathways to the light language is to connect to the body and to feel comfortable in the body and to feel comfortable feeling stupid in your body. And I remember dancing around the lounge and just being like, oh, I feel so stupid. I feel so stupid. Like no one was watching me. All the curtains were closed. And this unfolding of me starting to feel comfortable in moving my body again. I probably at that point had sacred geometry and the physical aspect of light language coming through, but I wasn't aware of it. And then one day I was in the car and I was just singing away. And then all of a sudden, this strange language started coming out of me. And I was like, oh, okay. And I tried to close my mouth and just be like, what is going on? Because I was by myself. And it just couldn't stop. It was like blah, 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 pouring out of me. And I was like, okay, great. I know what this is. I've been actively pursuing this. It's okay. Everything's fine. And then a couple of days later, I was sitting on my bed at home and I just was singing and also opening up to play, dancing, anything fairy-like is all gonna open up those aspects. Sitting on my bed and it just started pouring out of me. And I remember sitting there and being like, wow, this is really strange, but this is also really beautiful. And then it was like this very small aspect of what is this judgment? And then it's like my mind just went blank. And I was just like expressing all of the sound and all of the sound and all of the sound. And I feel that this is one of the reasons why I love light language so much, because as humans, we come as these pure, beautiful beings and we come into this very dense planet and it can feel really harsh and it can feel really hard. And a lot of us can spend a lot of time cutting off the body and getting into the head. And when you're channeling light language, it's like your soul, your oversoul network, which we connected to earlier, opens up and just dumps all of this water in the form of frequency onto you. And it switches off the logical thinking mind and it just allows you to be in the body, in the human of the human. And that is one of the reasons why it's a really fast, easy way to shift frequency. And I mean, I could spend another hour talking about this, but from that point, it became something that I knew was going to happen from time to time. And then I remember I used to do all these live videos on Instagram selling my crystals. And one day I was talking and I just had this urge to start speaking light language. But you know, that witch wound fear came up and I was like, I can't possibly start speaking light language. And I remember being like, okay, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, ending it. And then the feeling of suppressing the light language was such a strange feeling. It was like a 5-year-old had run up to me wanting to play, and I'd say, no, I don't want to be seen with you. And I had this really visceral experience, but in my own internal self. And I was like, oh, this is really weird. This is really strange. And from that moment on, I was like, I will never repress this again. If I don't feel comfortable sounding, I will make hand movements. And if I don't feel comfortable making hand movements, I will go to a bathroom and quietly do something. Like I've actively pursued never cutting off that feeling again, because it was like, it's hard to explain, but it felt like an internal self-rejection. I hope that this story has given you an opportunity to understand that light language is more than just signing up to a class and receiving one activation and it becoming something that's part of your being. For some of you, that might be true. And for others, it might be more of a journey of coming back to the self, finding safety in the self. I was in such an intense freeze response for many, many years, and I had so much cortisol in my body that when I started realizing I needed to open up to the light language, it was like this huge healing came through. And that's why some of you would have had quite an intense experience of physical purging over the last 24 hours. Because it's like you're saying, I'm opening up, I'm allowing my soul to come into my body, I'm allowing myself to receive more of me. And it's like the floodgates get opened. And sometimes that requires physical purging. Does anybody have any questions or anything like that? Just love the sound of my own voice. There's a huge aspect of allowing play into your life. And for a lot of us, that comes from fairy magic. And if you connect to nature, you're connecting to the elementals or to the fairy realms, allowing the inner child to play. And I feel I've known for a long time that we have witch wounding and we have inner child wounding and different aspects of having to close ourselves off from our multidimensionality. But there's an aspect that has only just recently really landed, and that is judgment from other people. Maybe you were frolicking as a child, or you put on a show for your family and you said, come and look at me do this thing, and you were just so in the joy of your unique expression, and maybe someone looked at you like, she's so cringe, or that's so lame, or maybe someone said you're not a good singer or something like that. So we can have so many layers to the so many layers to the gates that need to be open to allow this to flow. I'm just going to share some light language because there's a lot of tension in my head, and I feel like there is just a need for some frequency movement. And then I'll check the comments, and then it's time to do an activation. Mokreti anna haketi ashta horo noyake trot asta. Okay, amazing. So you would have noticed there that sometimes light language is as simple as breathing as well. Especially if I'm clearing energy. If my boyfriend gets into bed in the evening and he's got like just little debris of other people's business, I'm like, be gone. And it's fast. It's so fast. It's like people talk about instant healing and your brain will be like, oh, whatever. It's, I don't know, no. And light language is like lightning. Thank you for sharing your story. It's interesting to hear how it came through for you. That's totally fine, Catherine. Just receive when you're ready. This activation will most likely be quite intense if you've got lots of things to do. I recommend having a little bit of spaciousness. And there's one more thing I want to share with you that I wrote down before we move into the activation. And that is, someone asked me how I would define light language a couple of days ago. And that was such an interesting experience. And I wanted to share this with you. So I think most of us know that light language is allowing frequency to have a voice or an expression. And it also allows us to receive massive amounts of data and share it really quickly. So I'm going to read this before I just say it all anyway. Light language is utilizing the full extent of our vocabulary of sounds and body movements, including hand mudras, to convey messages of our soul. The sounds and movements allow for large chunks of data to be shared with more precision than if we were speaking English or human languages. These languages can be quite limiting when it comes to expressing high frequency information. And the only other thing that I would add to that is that if you are a healer or a person who facilitates space holding, you're most likely a channel. And whether you're an English channel or a light language channel, it doesn't matter. But we often receive so much information. Oh, my candle just dropped heaps of wax. That happened. And another transmission with Andrea and Tasha. Like, yes, I know. Okay, the dragons are here. We can share some dragon light language soon. What was I talking about? Right. Because so much of society is disconnected from the multidimensionality of themselves, when we hold space for people and we're open to receiving information, we can be bombarded with information because most people are closed off to receiving information from their guides. The reason why light language can be so beneficial is that you can receive a massive, like you can receive a 20-liter bucket of information that might take your human language 3 hours to transmit. And with light language, you can share those codes to someone in 15 minutes or in 2 minutes, depending on what frequency you're dealing with. So it is actually just like very Syrian and very precise, and there's no fucking around. Okay. So the transmission today is going to be a guided meditation journey. And we're going to go into our quantum space, which I will guide you into. And we're going to connect to alternate aspects of ourselves who have already experienced light language and who actively use it. And we're going to receive information from them. And I like to call this a quantum technology quest because they're going to give us a gift and it is going to be so much fun. For any of you who are in a place where you can't sit down and receive, now would be a good time to jump off, but you can also just listen because it'll be good vibes. And what I'm going to do is stop the recording now so that you can also have the meditation journey just on its own. So you don't have to fast forward through 59 minutes of me talking.